All right. So speaking of Mandalorian, speaking of Star Wars,
segue
thank
there.
you.
Really well done.
Look, man, some big news went down.
Oh, boy.
Big news went down.
Star
Announcement that
Wars.
Kevin Feige, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we can call him the Overlord, he's developing a Star Wars
Or
movie.
the Emperor.
I was gonna say that's kind of like rough. I mean, he's more like the captain of the ship. What's like a positive? He's a positive guy.
Right.
He's not the emperor.
No.
Yeah. Well, but
not the Overlord.
he Overlord. He oversees everything, and those shit's going down. But anyway, look,
He's the architect.
General Sarlacc. What's the guy's name?
General Sarlacc.
With the eyeballs.
I don't know
You
what
know
you're
what I
talking
mean?
about.
He's like,
Are you talking about Grievous?
Oh,
Akbar.
Oh, Akbar.
Yeah.
General Sarlacc.
Yeah. So
That should be your AIM name.
That's right. Kevin Feige is developing a movie with Lucasfilm and Disney, and there's a lot of things, a lot of ways you can approach this. The first is of course, he works at Marvel. They asked him, he's a big Star Wars fan. He's always said he's been a big Star Wars fan, and they reached out to him and they said, Kevin, let's do a movie together. So he's doing, and that's going to be the answer from anyone you ask over there. It's like, no, it's a one-off thing, or not even necessarily one-off thing, but it's a thing that we're doing together. I'm very excited, and we're going to develop this together, and here we go. So there's going to be a lot of that people saying that. Now, there's the other side that say this is just a step for Kevin Feige to take over at Lucasfilm.
Right. Because Kathleen Kennedy's contract is up in 2021, correct?
They re-signed it, right? And
They did they?
But
Like last year.
Last year.
Like right
Okay.
around Last
Yes,
Jedi.
it was up. It was up, and then they re-signed it.
Okay.
But reports, even when that happened, right, was that before she resigned, and was like, oh my God, she resigned, and no one thought that was going to happen, right? But when it did, there was reports, and some people had said, well, she's eventually, they're not going to fire her. She's going to step down eventually. So,
Do you like her?
I like her as a producer.
Okay.
I don't like her as the creative head of Star Wars.
Got it.
I think she is one of the best producers of all time.
What has she produced other than like being the head
Oh
of Star
shit!
Wars?
Everything.
E.T., Indiana
E.T.,
Jones, I mean,
Jurassic Park.
tons.
Yeah.
She's
Tons.
worked with every
Let me
director imaginable.
Let me just
yeah.
look at
Yeah,
her.
she's a brilliant producer, and I think that one of the things that they're trying to do, if they go with this plan, it's going back to that conversation we had the other day about Star Wars with the positivity inside of Star Wars. Because regardless, I know you don't like all the Marvel movies, but you can't deny that he connects that fan base,
yeah.
and they get excited.
No, I think regardless of what you think of the MCU universe, that's never been done before. Like
Right.
what he's done with this franchise is very impressive. He's clearly very good at his job.
One of my favorite games is when you type somebody's name into IMDb, it's like the first credit that pops up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, Kathleen Kennedy, producer, this.
Right.
What movie do you think is her
Howard the
credit?
Duck.
No.
Aw.
But it's not like
And it's not
it's
E.T.?
not like her best movie, that's for sure.
1942.
No.
What?
What is it?
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Oh.
Oh,
is
wow, I didn't know she did
That's
that
a good
one.
movie,
Yeah, it's a
though.
good
I know
one.
it's a great
Oh
movie,
yeah,
but
so
I
you
mean-
wouldn't think it would be the
Right,
first
right,
one that
right,
pops
right.
up.
Yeah.
Do you think
yeah.
that it's a possibility that she could succeed someone like Bob Iger?
Not Bob Iger, but I do think that she could take another big job, and I also think she could continue to do stuff with her husband Frank Marshall.
Yeah.
But Kathleen Kennedy in the Hollywood business ain't going anywhere.
Right.
She's been
No,
around for a long time,
God, no.
and you don't want her to. Like
No.
for anybody who has grievances with Kathleen Kennedy in general over Star Wars creativity, that's another argument. You can't deny what she does as a producer. She's a great producer.
Right.
But if this is the case. If this, I mean, again, I am aware that there's two scenarios. There is a scenario that Kevin Feige is just coming in and doing a movie and leaving. I don't happen to think it, but it's possible.
Right.
I think that, because here's the reason why that's tricky if you're going to do it that way. Because if Kevin Feige comes in, does a movie, Star Wars movie that he develops with Kathleen Kennedy, right? But that particular movie turns out to be the best Star Wars movie they've done since Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
Then that's a problem for Kathleen Kennedy. Because then people are going to go, we'll do another one with him. Because it's working. Keep on doing it. Keep on doing it. And then why isn't Kevin doing more? And it's going to be like the manager that comes in to call a couple plays, or the quarterback that comes in after the old pro is hurts his leg for a little bit and then gets the starting job.
She produced Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Wait, hold on. Do you know the only actress credit she has? It's in an Indiana Jones film.
Ooh, is it Temple of Doom?
It is
Doom,
Temple
yeah.
of Doom. She's an Anything Goes dancer.
Let's go over credits after we get through the conversation. Go ahead.
Come on, this is all fun. I don't know what you guys are fucking talking about.
So we just watched 2 minutes of a Uber scam that
We
you
did.
made. So Josh can read the credits. It's fine.
Okay.
Question. Anyway, my point. So if let's say Kevin Feige does succeed Kathleen Kennedy, like if he does take over, at least I don't know, another trilogy or more Star Wars movies,
Right.
then. How long has he been at Marvel? Right, it's like 10 years or something.
Been there
like
for
that?
a while.
Or more?
He's been at Marvel longer than 10 years. He's been running like the kind of MCU About a little over 10.
Right. So then who would succeed him for Marvel, right? Because
Great question.
we have people that like
He's gotta be
Tran
grooming
Tran. We got
somebody.
Right.
But
we got Victoria Alonso,
produced
right? There's
Goonies.
like executive producers that started out, years ago on Iron Man that
Right.
are now really big influences and part of that team. So do you have any idea? Like, I think those are the only two names that pop up to me.
I don't know who I agree with Josh. He's got to be grooming somebody if you're going to go with this plan. But the other question is this. We know that the Benioff, we know that the Benioff and Weiss movies are the next ones out of the gate, right? So are they going to go back on what they said about, because Bob Iger said, oh, no, we were ambitious. We're not doing one a year anymore. We're doing 2 a year. So this is the same conversation that we had about Rian Johnson. If Rian Johnson isn't doing his movies until the Benioff and Weiss, we're not getting movies from Rian Johnson until 2026. So when are we going to see a movie from Kevin Feige? Or they just say, look, it's Kevin Feige. We'll put it out when it's done. Doesn't
Or
matter.
maybe it's just a one-off. Maybe it's a.
Well, that's
Which is
the whole
possible.
question. What's the story? Is it going to be setting up a new trilogy? Is it going to be just a one-off, like they're kind of hinting at? But then what's interesting is Rian Johnson just said that they still haven't figured out their game plan, so I'm probably going to be able to do another original movie
Right.
before that.
Right.
So there's that. We haven't heard much about Benioff and Weiss. I find it interesting that Sony came out and said, well, Kevin Feige's really busy over at Marvel, so that's why we're taking Spider-Man back.
That was just, that's PR.
And I also find it interesting that this came out right when Iger's book is coming out and everybody's talking about George Lucas.
Right. Well, I mean, that's positive, a little throwaway, like a little.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit like,
diversion.
But do you
look
think
at
that
what's
that's
going
PR?
on.
Was that?
What do you think that's PR?
For Sony?
Yeah.
It's a PR spin.
It's just a PR spin. So, it's like, because there's other. It's about money.
Right.
It's
I mean,
overall-
it's all about
It's
money.
all about money, but
Yeah.
but that's so they don't want
Which
to
is
get
why
into
Kevin Feige could be the emperor.
Do you
So-
think?
But they don't want to get into specifics of money, so they say, he's too busy.
Well, with great power comes shitty PR.
Do you
Yeah.
think that this is like an ego play for Kevin Feige in the sense of like, okay, I've mastered the MCU. I've set out the plan for the next 6 to 8 years. I will script supervise whatever. I will have another person take this on because Star Wars needs me. And Disney and Lucasfilm came to him and said, we need a plan. We need you. Kathleen Kennedy is a great producer, like you said, but she's not a great Star Wars planner. We need you to do what you did to the MCU. We need to oversee
And
the
take
next
this
10 to
franchise
12 year
back.
plan.
So
that the
so-
fans aren't yelling
So
at each other.
getting
"I'll
you
kill
back
you."
into this conversation and excited about it, right? You look at it like sports.
Yeah.
When was the last time the Knicks won a fucking championship?
Yes, 70s.
Right. The person, and it doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon.
Right.
But the person, whether it's the player or the coach that takes the Knicks to the championship, is going to be the king of New York.
Right.
Right. So, if you have Kevin Feige, who you said right now, he's coaching another team that's won shit ton of championships.
Totally.
They win a championship every fucking year. Right. And just
It's like
won
what the Knicks thought they were going to get when they got Phil Jackson.
Right, but he just and Kevin Feige just won the biggest championship of all time with the biggest movie of all time. Right. So now, like you said, he's won all the championships he can with that team. His assistant coach takes over and now going to manage a team. Now he's going to manage the Knicks.
Right.
Right. If he does, this is not guaranteed.
The
but
fact
if
that
he
you're
does-
comparing Star Wars to the Knicks makes me extremely funnily happy
I know.
because
That's
you're
what
like
I-
the fans are like, "Are you fucking kidding me? The Knicks suck. Star Wars is good."
I know.
How about the
I know.
Lakers?
Well, but
You're such a
but
nerd
either
The
way-
jock.
Lakers stink right now.
But either,
too.
but either
Exactly.
way, my point is that if he takes them to, because look at the positivity already, just from this one movie that might just be a spin-off of all the people getting excited about it online.
Were the comments mostly positive?
Yeah. Most people would, because it's, but I think that you get to a place. Some people, the negative part is like, okay, take Star Wars back, and that's not what this is.
Right.
This is more of what is this movie going to be? Because I just happen to think that you're putting Kathleen Kennedy in a no-win situation.
No,
here.
not at all.
Because unless the plan is do the movie with him, we have enough. Because if his movie doesn't come out in 2 years, at that point she's like, that was my last movie. I did it with Kevin. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And now Kevin did such a great job. Now now you spin it positively like her. She hits her last shot, walks off the court, hands it over to Kevin. That is a good way to spin it.
Right.
I mean,
But-
on IMDb, it looks like she has like 7 other projects in the works that have nothing to do with Star
She's
Wars.
done it.
Maybe she's done with Star Wars. Like if I mean,
If I
as
were
much as
her,
I
I'd
love
wanna
Star
be.
Wars, I'd be like, I'm sick of the fans yelling at me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
right. I don't think
Yeah.
she really pays
Yeah.
attention to it, to be honest
That's
with you.
no, I know.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, at some point, she's going to retire, right?
Well, I don't think she's going to retire. I think she'll be making movies with her husband, but I think getting out of the Lucasfilm thing, and if Kevin Feige does, Kevin Feige's a massive Star Wars fan. He's a massive Star Wars fan. So if you have Kevin Feige, even doing this one movie, that if there's a plan that continues on, and there's already reports that he has an actor involved, and
He's already spoke to a big name actor
Right.
that he has in mind for the movie.
Remember, this is the same thing that any time a report like this comes out, Obi-Wan, anything, this has been in the works for a bit.
Yeah.
There were meetings that Kevin Feige had with Disney about taking over Star Wars. We know that there was conversation about other jobs that he was going to have, and things didn't pan out. But it's not to say that in that particular meeting, back whenever it was, during the time when Kathleen Kennedy was going for her contract, that Iger said, well, why don't you do a movie with us? Do a movie with Star Wars. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how the fan reaction is. Let's see how you enjoy it. And Kathleen will then pass it off to you after it's all over. It's possible. Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. Can he do both? Can he do Star Wars and Marvel?
Hard to vote against him and say no.
Yeah.
I mean, he can with it. I think with the Marvel team that he already has,
Right.
right? Like
I think
the
so,
names
yeah.
I mentioned earlier, like Trin and Victoria. Like those are
Exactly.
people that have been at Marvel with him for years,
Right.
right? And so I'm sure he's already, like you said, either he's shaping somebody to replace him or
And he's built a
helping.
foundation.
Yeah.
The house
Exactly.
is, I mean, it's
What's
on
his,
its sturdy.
what's his family life like?
I don't know.
I asked that because
Exactly.
It
It's a
goes
great
into
question.
It goes into it as far as, is he married? Does he have kids? Because
I think he keeps it on the down low.
I don't know,
We
because that plays into it. Because I don't know if it plays into it. It could play into it. If you look at J.J. Abrams, one of the reasons he didn't want to take Episode 7 in the first place is he wanted to spend more time with his wife and his family, and then his wife's like, "You got to do it."
Yeah.
And so he did it. And the same thing happened with 9.
He's like, you're doing this, dummy.
Right, but it's so that could add into it. But going back to the first scenario, what if he just wants to do a Star Wars movie and Kathleen Kennedy isn't going anywhere, and it's just Kevin Feige doing a movie and seeing what happens, and he goes, and even if the fans are going, I don't know, it was such a good job, come back. Nah, it was just a one-off. I'm out.
And maybe he continues executive producing some of the movies.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
Like maybe he does. Like he
Puts a
plays a
stamp
minor
on it.
part.
But remember when
in the universe.
he did talk about a Star Wars movie, and he said, "I'm such a big fan. I like."
He also
I like
said
to do that."
he also said Spider-Man wasn't coming into the MCU.
That's my point.
Yeah.
So
He's a
it's
good
like,
spin artist.
That was a good spin.
Yeah.
There was probably already talk when he said that, internally at Disney about this, and I think he was just biding his time, maybe to get in there and do something.
Now, there's a difference, by the way, because I already can hear the internet saying, well, why don't you call him a liar the way you did Matt Smith? Because Matt Smith's name was announced as being part of the cast. And now Matt Smith is – I understand that if JJ and all those people are telling him, don't say you're in the movie now because it's a big reveal, and he has to do it. I bust balls when I say Matt Smith. Matt Smith has to be a liar
So do we
because his
J.J.
bosses are
Abrams
telling
did
him
it
to.
with Benedict
I know.
Cumberbatch, calling him John Harrison
I know.
instead of
I know.
Khan.
It's more of a
Right. Yeah.
JJ thing than because was Matt Smith going to lose his job? I mean, I get it, but I'm just saying that Kevin Feige is going to do the same thing here, and because we have enough time. The other thing that was in this particular report, I don't remember if it was Hollywood Reporter or whatnot.
It's Hollywood
It was.
Is
Reporter.
it Beckham
yeah.
Ford?
I don't
No.
know. So they said that that one of the reasons they're not making a big deal out of it, even though this is a pretty fucking big deal, but even though they're not making a big deal out of it as far as announcing what it is and all that, is because they don't want to take anything away from Episode 9.
Right.
Like the focus has to be on 9. You better bet your ass you're going to hear a lot about this at Celebration next year.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to hear about the new TV shows, Obi-Wan, all that stuff, and then Kevin Feige now is coming out to talk about his movie at Celebration. That's how you sell tickets to Celebration.
Okay, so if you were Kevin Feige or Kathleen Kennedy or whatever, where would you put the Kevin Feige movie? Would you have it like a prequel tying into the
Great
Benioff and
question.
Weiss series?
I was
Would
Oh,
you
you're
just
have-
saying
gonna-
as far as time period itself?
Yeah, like
Yeah, what do we want?
Well,
What-
not just
what do
time
you
period,
want?
but to add to
'Cause
Josh's question, what do you think Kevin would be interested in making in the Star Wars universe?
I'll tell you what I'd like to see. I don't know him well enough to know where his interests lie. I don't know if he's
pod
I
racing
don't know.
movie.
No, I don't know if he's an Old Republic guy. I don't know if he's a prequel guy. I don't know where his Star Wars. I just know that he's a big fan. But because of all the people that he has contacts to and people he's worked with, and one of the biggest rumors and fan kind of nerdom that we've wanted to see so far, he's got a good tie-in to Sebastian Stan, right? So let me see a young Luke movie
Right.
with Sebastian Stan. Yeah.
Yes! Yes!
So let me see that.
That's what I want.
Because because who knows?
Yeah, but how boring is that? He didn't even know what he was until he got on a ship with Ben Kenobi.
No. I'm talking about after Return of the
No.
Jedi.
Oh,
I'm talking
oh,
about-
oh.
I'm
Set
talking-
after
I'm
Return
talking
of
about
the
him
Jedi.
as powerful
God.
Luke
Dude, I've
looking
been
for all the
saying
shit.
this on Rule of Two every single episode. I would love to see that time period, him rebuilding.
Imagine Feige doing that.
So
It's the
you're
Patton
talking,
Oswalt pitch.
You're talking between Jedi, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, but
Return of the
then-
Jedi and
how
Force
he-
Awakens.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, that 30-year period.
well, you could. I mean, depending on how many movies you do.
Well,
But
yeah.
It's very similar to like Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan takes place like 7 or 8 years. The series takes 7 or 8 years after Revenge of the Sith, right? So you're still getting the age range for Ewan McGregor's perfect for where he is in his life. If you did Sebastian Stan is what? He's 35, 36, or whatever it is.
He's older than me, 37.
Well, whatever he might be, it's around the same age, or you can make him look around the same as right after
He looks like
Return of the
Nathan's
Jedi.
brother, yeah.
Yeah, and he could be around doing something, but maybe it isn't that. Maybe it isn't because the biggest problem with that is that you run into the same problem that Ryan Johnson and all these other guys run
he's
into.
born in 82, just like me,
Look at
37.
you.
Same.
But you run into a problem, the same problem that these other JJ does too. You're attaching yourself to characters that the fan base is very attached to, and that you're putting it on your first movie, Kevin Feige, if he does it. Then all the expectations are going to be on you. Are you ruining the character? Are you doing this with the character that's not the character I know? As opposed to something that, like, let's say that Jon Favreau and Filoni are doing right now, a brand new character that you don't have any expectations for, that you're learning him every time you see him.
Well, especially after Solo, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say.
Which,
exactly right.
Which I didn't hate like everyone else.
Yeah, I
but,
didn't hate that movie.
I
There's
thought
a
it was.
lot
I
of
thought it was
people that like
entertaining.
it.
Yeah,
What,
it's-
There's a lot of people.
Yeah,
that
I
like
don't hate it. It's there.
That's how I feel.
It's because it's not as related to I think the Jedi mythology is which is what interests most Star Wars fans. I think that's what happened because Han is
Right.
not in you know he's
Yeah.
he's
Well,
a scoundrel. He's
but
not
the
he's a
comparison-
space pirate. He's not.
But you're also asking people to compare him to one of the greatest actors of all time,
Right.
and that's a hard thing.
Right.
It's a hard thing to do for anybody. And I've said it a million times. People disagree with me, and that's fine. I think that Alden Ehrenreich did a great
Yes.
job acting.
Agreed.
I don't feel he's the same character that I knew. You can
Because it's an
disagree.
impossible thing to ask someone.
It's very hard. It's
Yeah.
very hard.
So,
I
do you
guess
think the fans
Ewan
would be
did it.
more welcoming for a Sebastian Stan Luke Skywalker?
Yes. Yes, I do. But
And I
I
have
al-
another question too, because we could have a lot of options.
Yes,
here.
I do, but I also think that it's tough depending on what Feige wants to do. Maybe there's a different story that Feige wants to tell that has nothing to do with anybody we know.
It could be.
Maybe it ties into Benioff and Weiss. Maybe he's going to go in and help produce it with those guys.
Maybe
You know,
it ties into Ryan Johnson.
He's making the next Ewok movie.
and which
how
ties
dare
into
you.
which ties into the Christmas special.
Yeah.
But
Also, though, we just saw Captain Marvel. We just had what's his name? Sam Jackson de-aged.
Right, yeah.
Could he do
Mace?
No. Luke Skywalker with Hamill de-aged.
I don't think I want that.
Yeah.
It's for your first one.
Yeah.
Nah, it's too risky.
Yeah, because he built up to that through Marvel.
It's too risky for your first one. You want to do. Look, it just depends.
Also,
on,
these if you ask that, sorry to interrupt, but the older actors like Mark, like, are they really going to want to do more of these movies?
and,
That's
and
right.
Mark Hamill
I
said
think
he's
Mark
done.
I think he's toasted.
I think he wants it done.
I do think, though, I don't think that movie will ever happen. But I do
Right.
think even Mark Hamill or whoever, right, especially Mark Hamill, would take a conversation with Kevin Feige.
Right, of
If
course.
Kevin
Of
Feige is
course.
taking
Yeah.
the thing, because I think he's one of those people you're never really going to get him to say it publicly too. But I don't think he likes the direction of what Star Wars has gone and what it's done. As he said,
Who, Hamill or
Hamill, yeah.
I mean, I think Mark also would be awesome in a Marvel movie. That's,
yes.
I want to see him
Absolutely
as a
he would
villain
be.
or something.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
great.
Here's what I think with Kevin Feige, though, and I think sooner or later we have to do this. Get away from legacy characters and do.
that's
And I
that's
think
right.
if Kevin Feige, and I said this, I know I took out my headphones and yelled
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker, but I think if we want Star Wars to really go to that
Thrive.
next level and thrive,
Yeah.
we need all new original characters
Well,
and new stories.
Which is hopefully what The Mandalorian will do.
and I think that's
Yeah.
going to be a good
Well,
litmus
that's what I'm
test.
saying. You can do both because you certainly can do both because you look at Mandalorian and then you look at Obi-Wan, right? And Cassian Andor isn't a legacy character.
No.
He's a character that popped up in Rogue One. And you're going to build new characters inside that series. So they're still doing it. It's the same argument of it's like there's no original material in film. There's tons of original material. You just got to go out and find it if you want to watch it.
You know all these books.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Are there?
You read books.
Well, no, the Star Wars. I mean,
the
the
Star-
named a planet after
Those
the guy.
Star Wars.
So, what are some stories outside the main saga? Like, are there in these books?
There are tons.
Okay.
There are tons, and that's kind of what I hope. That's
What would be your interest out of all those?
Yes.
Darth Bane. I want to see a Darth Bane, but I want to see a Darth Bane series.
Mm-hmm.
But shit, man, if Kevin Feige was going to make a Darth Bane trilogy, sign me up. I would rather.
What's
I would
his
ra-
deal?
So
Shit,
Darth
man.
Bane, you know the rule of two with Sith.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
like there can only be one to create the power, one to have it.
Right.
Darth Bane was the one who
Created
created all that. He was a Sith that came up, and depending on how they actually take his story in the book, in the non-canon book that Drew Karpyshyn wrote, he was this really angry kind of 6'4" dude that joins the Sith army when the Sith army were thousands, but he realized that they were fucking killing everybody. They were killing each other because they kept craving the power. So he set off this fucking bomb, kills them all, and then he trained one apprentice.
Yeah.
He
And that was
wiped out
Darth
all.
Vader.
No. This was 1,000 years before all that shit. So it takes
He
place
just
a while
didn't
ago.
want to deal with HR, so
Yeah,
he only
right.
trained one.
But a Bane movie would be interesting. But again, a risk for Feige to start with because you're leading with a villain property. So I don't think that'll happen.
What about Old Republic?
yeah,
I would
that's-
love that. The more we talk about it, I think that would be where he would fit nicely. Even though Benioff and Weiss, everybody thinks,
Right.
oh, Game of Thrones, this
Right.
and this.
Because of the
Well,
politics
well, so
aspect of it. Yeah.
so here's why that's very possible.
Yeah.
Because originally, when they announced Benioff and Weiss coming in, they said Benioff and Weiss are going to do a trilogy of movies, right? And then they're not going to direct them. They're going to have some write. They're going to write and do all this stuff. Then a report like a couple months ago said they don't even know if they're going to do all three.
Yeah, they're going to write a treatment and then off.
So it is very, very possible that
go on.
Kevin Feige takes over that treatment and he starts to do some stuff inside of the Old Republic. It's very possible, if indeed it is Old Republic stuff. Whether now there have been reports, is it the start of the Jedi and the Sith in general, which could be exciting for anybody to see?
The First Jedi.
First Jedi, first Sith. That's
yeah, that
awesome.
sounds fun.
Or is it an adaptation of the Knights of the Old Republic, which has also been heavily rumored?
Yeah.
Which could be great and could be a lot of fun. And the video game fans would be attached to it, but not the same way that the Star Wars fans were attached to other, there wouldn't be as many expectations, is what I'm saying. So there's a lot that he could do, and there's other shit that we're not even thinking of that he could
What
do.
about a young Leia movie?
Could happen.
yeah.
But we go back to the same
Princess
problem.
of
That
Alderaan,
Millie
yeah.
Bobby Brown would be great.
Right.
We go back to the same conversation where we just had with
it's the
Sebastian
same-
Stan.
Yeah,
With the
yeah.
legacy characters,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
that it gets trickier, and I'm as much as I love those characters, and the original trilogy will forever be something amazing compared to everything else we've seen. I think that I'm more interested personally in other stuff about the franchise. I love Luke and Leia and Han,
Yeah.
but
You wanna see
we've
something
seen
new.
them.
Yeah, you wanna see
Like
something
that's like a character story
Yes.
arc, and I'd rather get more into the mythology
Yeah,
of the
Okay.
Force and
Is
that
there,
type of stuff.
Is there storylines in that Rebel show? Like with the everybody always brings up this Ahsoka girl.
Chance to bring her, you're saying?
Yeah, like what does she do? What does she power?
So-
and who is Darth Plagueis? Because people kept
Ahsoka
bringing
would
him
be-
up.
Plagueis to me. Look, here's this. You asked me what movie I'd want to see. Show me a Darth Plagueis movie because, and again, this is I want to leave with the villains, but Tom Hiddleston as a young Palpatine would be great. Darth Plagueis who trained and recruited Palpatine, and the one who was able to
Okay.
cheat death.
Since you
So-
mentioned Tom Hiddleston, I was also thinking, I wonder how many actors from the Marvel
Marvel.
movies have already contacted Kevin and been like, hey, so you're going to
Hook
put me in
me
your
up.
movie, right?
But here's another thing that I have concerns with because yes, am I excited that Kevin Feige is doing a Star Wars movie? Absolutely. Do I think that if he had hold of the Star Wars universe and my biggest problem, I've been very vocal about it, is that Star Wars has had no plan. You get a movie, you get a movie, you get a movie, go. That's
Oprah Wars.
Yes, it's a bad plan.
The Snow
that-
Planet, Ice Christmas.
Whatever it might be. This is
You
is
mean
not
Hoth?
Yeah.
Hoth,
Okay.
the Hoth movie.
Yeah, the Hoth movie.
You just go skiing there. That's
Yeah,
all you
totally.
would do.
Yeah, it's a Ken Burns documentary.
Yes.
Yes, but this hasn't been Feige's MO. It has not been, okay, did a movie, I'm out. It's how does it all connect? How does it play forward? How do we deliver satisfaction to the fans who are investing in the story? That's a positive. What I get not upset, what I have a concern about, one of my biggest gripes with The Last Jedi was that Star Wars has always had humor. It's always had humor. When you go back to
But this one had Spaceballs humor.
Spaceballs humor, Marvel humor, right? Marvel humor works in Marvel movies. Me, I didn't think that a lot of the stuff that worked, it was out of place. For example,
it took me out of the movie.
Yes.
It's not that it wasn't funny, and it just
No.
made me feel like, oh, this is
different
not
movie.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Weird.
So
yeah.
the example of that is episode 4.
With the skinny kid, Donald Gleason, that comedy.
Donald Gleason. But episode 4 had Harrison Ford. They're in the detention center. He says, "We're all fine here. How are you?"
How are you?
Boom. Boring conversation. Anyway, funny jokes. But it fits the situation. It made sense that it would happen, as opposed to I'm pulling up, I'm about to bomb this whole thing. Oh, your mother's on the phone. Oh, what do you know? We're just no, all that stuff. Like it was there was a lot of goofy shit in there that just felt more Marvelish. Is that going to happen with a Kevin Feige movie? I tend to think not. I think he knows what properties he has because the Marvel, and I'm not dissing on Marvel stuff. I think it works brilliantly. A lot of times in Marvel, Ant-Man 2 is probably the same problem that I had. It was
Guardians Volume.
But
2.
as you
over the
mentioned
top.
earlier, though, this would, as much as we admire that these people are good at their jobs, these people also care about money, right? And so what's making the most money right now? Because we have fans like us that grew up with the original trilogy, but these new movies, whether we like them or not, they're making a lot of money, right? And so
not Solo.
but the other ones,
Yeah.
I mean. And so if you're talking about Marvel humor and all these things that they're bringing into the Star Wars world, that's not necessarily Star Wars.
But wait, hold that though, because you're talking. The other movies that you mentioned didn't have that stuff. Rogue One did not have that stuff.
Last Jedi did, yeah.
Right. That's one movie. Like you said, all the movies.
I think Force Awakens had a little bit of it.
Force Awakens had a little,
Yeah.
but it still felt like even the joke, and I know people said like even the joke with Finn when he's talking about the boyfriend, the cute boyfriend, like. It still fit that scenario. It wasn't funny, but it still fit the scenario for where he was. The comedy still felt Star Wars comedy. Last Jedi just felt like a different type of comedy altogether, and it made me think of Marvel stuff because, like you said, the bits are funny. The bits are funny. Just didn't feel like it should have been in the movie.
I wonder if years from now, like in years like 3, 4 maybe, because we have Benny Weiss, maybe we have the Rian Johnson, all this stuff is happening, but we take a little pause after Rise of Skywalker. Kevin Feige comes in and says, it's episode 10 I'm doing. Do you think they'll ever do that? Because
No.
And I'm looking right now because he's the end of the saga. But they said that with Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, but that was a different thing. Revenge of the Sith. They said that Revenge of the Sith because that was before Iger said, "I want to go buy the franchise and make a whole bunch of movies." They're going to stay as far away from the episodes for now. And build off.
Yeah,
go
and
back in time. Look what Game of Thrones is doing.
Or
They're
he
going
could
back in time.
Sure, and I want that. I the more I say it, I want him back in Old Republic days. But why not pick up after episode 9? Don't call it episode 10. Here's a movie that continues with some of the characters.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Can I be like the voice of the common man?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Always.
Star Wars nerds here.
Isn't that what you always are?
Yes, I would think. Is you lost a lot. You didn't make a lot of money on Solo, right? Because
Right.
people were just like, your diehards went to see it. The non-Star Wars people were like, meh. And now it could have been oversaturation because it was
Yeah.
2 movies in the same year. Or just it
Pretty
didn't have
close
good
together.
word of mouth.
It didn't have good marketing.
It said Solo, whatever.
Came out in May.
Infinity War came out.
2 weeks
Deadpool
after
2
Infinity
came
War.
out.
Right. Now, for the common man, you guys are pitching me Darth Plagueis. Don't know who that is. Darth Bane. I don't know who it is. This and that, whatever. You're pitching me Knights of the Old Republic video game. People are probably going to like it. For the common Star Wars person, if I went to go to my cousin and I was like, hey, this is a young Luke Skywalker movie and it takes place after Return of the Jedi, remember, with the Ewoks, and it leads up to the new one with Daisy Ridley, sort of. It'll be a 3-movie thing. It's going to be Sebastian
Easier
Stan.
pitch to a casual fan.
Correct.
No, you're not wrong. But that's
great
because it is money.
Great
but,
point, Josh.
It's a fantastic point. But that's the problem and the risk that you have running Star Wars at the moment, because you have to take that risk to try to capture the casual fan on properties they don't know. Because if you keep relying on ones that they do, you might get another Solo. What you want to do is build new characters. You want to build new. So Guardians of the Galaxy comes to mind. Right now, Guardians of the Galaxy is connected to Marvel, which is an established brand. Star Wars is an established brand. You put Star Wars in the title, people are going to say, well, what is this? Well, the guy that ran all of Marvel, he's doing this one. Oh, okay, that's interesting now to your brother. That's interesting to someone else, too. There's Jedi and there's lightsabers in it. That now becomes interesting. Well, it takes place of the first Jedi that was ever came up with.
No.
The first Sith. that becomes interesting. You learn, and now it depends on the actor. Michael Fassbender, Tom Hardy gets cast in it. Okay, now I'm more interested.
that.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? And then it's about the trailer.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you. I want to see some of this old prequel stuff. I mean, I've been on the Better Call Saul bandwagon since day one.
Yeah.
Because,
I just see where you're coming from.
You know what
I get
mean?
it, yeah.
Like if they had pitched it as a Breaking Bad prequel instead of the making of Saul Goodman, really, then I think we would be in the same boat of like, I can't wait for season 5 of Better Call Saul, and he'd probably be winning awards.
Right.
But people jumped on board and they were like, maybe it was a little too soon after Breaking Bad, or it wasn't pitched correctly. I'm saying like with a trailer, obviously, big kind of things, but like if you tell people, hey, this is 1,000 years before the Star Wars movie, then that sells me, that sells a common fan kind of a thing.
Right.
I think, depending on story, whatever, but building off of what you have, relying on Old Faithful, I don't think is a bad idea. I don't think that if Kevin Feige comes in and he's like, listen, we have the established property, it would be great if we just need to tie it into the overall trilogy so I can make my Star Wars Endgame.
Right. You're not wrong, because that is a way to grab people. But the other side is he's also been very good at building out. And remember, Iron Man, the character, was known. He was not the iconic character that he is now.
No.
So if
they were calling him the B character
that's what I mean.
leading up to it.
You can take, and like I said,
Thor,
Guardian. No
any
one
of
knew
those
Guardians.
people, yeah.
Like casual. Your brother didn't know who the fuck Ant-Man was and all this stuff too.
I didn't know who
Right.
he was.
So
You know who Thor was?
Of course.
Yeah. Thor was
From Adventures in Babysitting.
right. And in the old Hulk scene, the Hulk show with Lou Ferrigno.
with
But you didn't know like Black Widow or Hawkeye or any of those
not.
people. Yeah.
Right. So and they were all built through franchise, and Kevin Feige is proving he knows how to build franchise, right?
So
you
maybe
can do
he
it.
is bringing in new characters
might
to
very well.
build other movies.
That's why I think if Benioff and Weiss are going to write this treatment, and then that's one of the ones, that's what Kevin Feige is going to come in to produce, and maybe, why not? Kevin Feige, what if they make an announcement at Celebration? Benioff and Weiss are working with Kevin Feige. So it's Kevin Feige, Benioff, and Weiss who are now producing this new trilogy of movies, right? So, the reason I say that is because, and of course, and Kathleen Kennedy is overseeing it. But maybe at that point, by the time the movie comes out, she steps down, let's say. Mm-hmm. And now Feige's kind of overrunning it with Benioff and Weiss, and now he's running that trilogy of films. Now we don't lose that. Now we don't get that question of, well, when is his movie going to come out? Obviously, it's 2022, 2024, 2026. That makes the most sense if you think about it, if they stick to the plan that they're doing.
Do you think, since these people are producers, and Disney has already become quite incestuous as to who they hire to direct, I mean, is this something that excites you to have the same people always working on these things? Because I'd rather see a Star Wars movie. We talked about this, right? Directed by like a Catherine Bigelow, or directed by which I have no idea if these other really amazing directors have interest. Yeah. But is that a concern to you that they're just using the same people over and over again?
Not even in the slightest.
Well, because Kevin Feige can do what he did with Marvel, and he keeps finding these new great directors to
Ryan
come
Coogler,
in.
and then the
Russo
girls
brothers.
do it for Star
the
Wars.
Russo brothers, right?
Right.
You know, the Russo brothers are going to wind up showing up doing
Totally.
a Star Wars film now.
100%.
But
But that goes to your point, Karina. I
Right.
think you
the same people.
Same
Right.
people.
That's what
so
I'm wondering if you guys are actually excited about that.
I want him to do what he did for Marvel, and I would like to stay. Russo brothers, I'd get excited about. Ryan
Right.
Coogler, I would be excited
the
about.
writer,
However,
the woman who did the writer, she's now doing.
she's doing Scarlett Black Widow. So
he's got a good eye for.
He's got a good eye.
directors.
So do that. But to your point, I would like to see new names that I've never heard of, like I did with Marvel, where I'm like, who are the Russo brothers? And then I get a Winter Soldier, but in the Star Wars universe,
Right.
who is blah blah blah, and I get a Star Wars movie that's rad.
Right.
Great.
Right.
That's what I hope he does.
Okay. And
No, go
Common
ahead.
Man, please.
No. Well, I'm just like from my stand. Here's the code. Like, so Amanda loves Marvel movies, right? She loved Guardians of the Galaxy. She loved Endgame. She loves Infinity War, whatever. She never really sat through a Star Wars movie,
Yeah. Mhm.
right?
Not even the old ones.
No.
Okay.
And I mean, she knows what they are, obviously.
Did she
but
try episode 7? Because Sadie doesn't like any of them, and she loves 7 any.
I think I think we were.
Interesting.
I was watching episode 7 and the thing, and she came and she's like, Star Wars, and walked out. I don't know if she's actually given it a chance,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I mean, I've
It was
tried.
a fight. It was a fight to get Sadie to watch 7, but when
Yeah.
she did, she loves 7 and she loves 8.
She doesn't. She doesn't like Empire. Wow.
I know.
I mean, I pick my battles. We've
Yeah.
been over,
No, yeah.
and like if Amanda wants to watch something, I will sit down and watch with her. But if she doesn't want to watch Star Wars, I'm not gonna like push her to watch Star Wars.
Right.
What I'm getting at here is like, okay, so you're trying to get some of the common fans back onto the Star Wars bandwagon. Some of this fandom has really split the hardcore fans. is putting Star Wars in front of the thing, are we just getting at the same people over and over again and hoping for like the push, or is like, are these movies, are we trying, because again, Marvel started as a comic book franchise for the comic book nerds and has gone to the mass.
No,
And
yes.
to the common man's point, which was going to be my next question, is we're seeing all of these franchises like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. They're all
Prequel.
doing prequel type stuff. And to me, I mean, I know that excites people, but I'd rather see newer stuff, because for prequels, you know these people are not really in danger, right? You know these characters are going to.
That's not
so
true.
that's my question. Like, is that what do you mean that's not true?
That's not true,
What's not
because
true?
a prequel, like you said,
Right.
a prequel, for example, like Obi-Wan going into prequel, you know he's going to make it out.
That's what I mean.
That's what you mean for those. But what
Right.
you mentioned was Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings. We don't know that these people are going to be, because it's thousands of years before.
But we don't know what characters are going to be. Right?
They're not going to be any of the ones that we
Right,
know.
right.
They're all new characters. So you're just taking
Same world.
That's the thing.
Solid
You're
point.
taking it into a familiar world, but with brand new characters, and that's my point about going into the Old Republic. Because if you
Okay.
go too close to what we know, then we run into your
That makes
problem.
sense.
Yeah. So, but going back to what you were talking about as far as the masses. So this is what Kevin Feige did, right? In Marvel. He took the hardcore audience. He got the people like the great John Schnepp and all these people to get on board first. And he went after that hardcore group that thought comic book movies just weren't done well. And minus, we're not talking about Dark Knight and all that stuff. We know that.
Do we think that first one was Iron Man? Like, do we think that was the first movie to grab?
It was unite the clans.
Okay.
And you got to unite the hardcore fans first. Like you said, the Star Wars fandom is split right now. I don't think anybody will argue that one way or another.
It's just a movie. Yeah.
But it is. It's split. And if Kevin Feige, being on board, brings that back together first, and he makes one for the hardcore fans first, because the hardcore fans will bring in a shit ton of money. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. But then if the hardcore fans and everybody else starts to hear word of mouth and the movie's good and it's got the quality, that's going to pick up, and that's going to start to get that mass fan. That's how you do it.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just throwing out questions to the crowd of Star Wars fandom.
they're
that
all
would,
great
Well, no, and it's
questions.
interesting
Like
to
you-
think about what the masses are really interested in, right?
Right.
It's like
Right.
how do you figure out, okay, do people want to see these legacy characters again and again, or do they want new stuff? Like for me personally, I want new stuff.
Yeah.
In every franchise.
And I think you'll get new stuff if you put it back in years before, because, like I said, you won't know if any of these people make it out. You won't if you put it. Hopefully, I think out of all the stuff that we've talked about, I'm most hopeful that he gets involved with this Benioff and Weiss stuff. That's what I would hope to hear.
For Old Republic.
Yeah,
Assuming that's what they're
the
doing,
case,
yeah.
and I'll be okay with both versions, whether it's Knights of the Old Republic or whether it's
First
just the
Jedi.
First Jedi or First Sith. It's because I don't know who's out of these new characters that I learned, because it's 1,000 years or shit, even 500 years before.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to make it out okay, but I want to invest in them. I want to learn about them, and what
And
I
actually
also
care about them,
And I want to
yeah.
care about them. But what I also want to see, what I was hoping that this new franchise that Kathleen Kennedy was doing with J.J. Abrams, that I don't think they're really going to be able to do, they could, but I don't think they're going to, is set up characters inside of this universe that could spin off into their own movies, right? There can't be
or series.
or a series, but there can't be a Finn movie right now. I mean, it could, but
Yeah,
but
I
it's
give a
not
shit.
going to crush. No one's going to really
Yeah.
a Poe movie. No, but if
Ray?
I mean, Cassian Andor is the only
This
one.
is a Ray movie. These are
These are Ray
movies.
movies.
You're right.
And but my point is, if you do these movies inside of the Old Republic, and Feige or whoever is running it and says, all right, this character, this Boba Fett type character, right, we'll set him up or her up, and she's going to have this arc, and we're going to see how the fans invest in it. Because if they invest in it, we got this whole way that we can go in a separate movie that'll come out in a year or two, and then the plan starts to formulate. That's where I mean there's no plan. Like there should be a plan, and I think that having a guy like that, if this is the overall thing to get him involved, this is what could happen.
I just hope they hire people. And again, they're smart about who they hire. They've definitely introduced us to newer directors that we weren't familiar with. But there's really exciting showrunners out there that I love, like the
For
Brian
TV or for film?
For TV,
Okay.
like the Brian Fullers of the world, or the Noah Hawleys. That in fact Noah Hawley, I think there was a rumor that he was going to do Doom, right? Like he was going to do Dr. Doom. And so those are the people that I would love to, that I think take more chances and take more risks creatively, that I would love to see in these franchises.
Kerry Fukunaga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie Fukunaga.
Yeah. Exactly. So-
I don't think you have to worry about that if he is the one who's going to come in, because I think that's what he's kind of building his name off of having all these, giving a lot of new people opportunity.
Kevin Feige is that guy that walks in with a plan. I think just that's who he is.
And Star Wars also, though, right now, when you look at television, going off your showrunner plan, look at all the unique and different and diverse voices they have just doing The Mandalorian. Right? There's so many new opportunities. They're already doing season 2 of that. You're going to see a whole shit ton of new directors doing Cassian Andor and now Obi-Wan. There's a lot.
Okay, so I didn't know that people didn't like the prequels until I started working with you guys.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea because I love the prequels.
Yeah.
Right? I really enjoy them. It's like shitty as the dialogue is, and Hayden Christensen is whatever.
They're finding a resurgence.
Yeah,
now.
totally. And I just have never really thought that Hayden Christensen was a good actor. Besides that, my favorite part of the prequels is the fact that there are Jedi everywhere.
Right.
That you got a Yoda fight.
Right.
And I know that everybody's like, well, Yoda. That's the shit that I like. And I feel like I'm the guy that, listen, I fucking loved Rambo because he kills everybody.
Right.
He's freaking Rambo, right? I want to see the Jedi go full Jedi. One of my favorite scenes is I think it's in Phantom Menace, maybe it's in Revenge of the Sith, when they stick the lightsaber in that thing and melt the door.
Yeah.
I'm like, the lightsabers can do that!
So this is a fantastic point, by the way, and this is not an insult to you. Okay, no, this is not. There's a part of the Last Jedi, right, that tries to get too cerebral. It just tries to get too you know what?
What part is that?
Just the part with what if Luke isn't this powerful Jedi? What if because he was actually shut down, he shuts himself off from the Force, and he's grouchy now? And
you didn't like that?
I would have liked it a lot more had he just snapped back into it, looked at Kylo, said, "See you around, kid," and he pops up on the Falcon. The fact that he disappears into the wind, why? Why does he die?
I'm with you.
Why
I
does he
don't
die?
know.
It makes no sense why he dies. It makes no sense.
Because it's the
but
most
the-
powerful movie he's ever made.
Get the fuck
But
out
are
of here.
you more upset about how it happened or the fact that he died?
Died. And
Well, that's what I mean. So right. So then you're just upset.
no, and how it happened,
Right.
and how it happened, because but going off of Josh's point,
Thank you.
there was not one lightsaber battle
No.
in Last Jedi. There were people who used lightsabers. There was never one. There was never one lightsaber battle.
I hate that.
I'm sorry you
I
hate
know.
it,
I
but there-
know.
but
I
there
know. It's
wasn't.
like you
And-
like what you like, and
But
for me, that's what I love.
But that's and of course, and there
Yeah.
were, and I'm not saying that is the majority.
To each
That
his own.
There's a lot of people like Riley and Ken, a lot of people who love that side of thing, but there are a lot of people who watch Star Wars because they want to see fucking lightsabers, right? And
I mean, I wanted to.
and Jedi.
I think they
How
could have
cool-
cut Canto Bite
Show
a
me-
little bit and just had.
How
the
cool
Yes.
whole
is
thing.
fucking
Yes.
Darth
Same.
Maul versus Obi-Wan
Right.
and Qui-Gon Jinn?
But
How
that's-
fucking
but
cool
that's,
is that?
That's the point. We need.
That's
we
the
do
one
need more of
scene
that.
in all the prequels that I can actually still rewatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there has not been a big focus in these movies on the Force.
Yes.
I mean, I get it. Last Jedi, the whole thing's about the Force. You know what I mean? I'm talking about as far as having Jedi versus Sith and all that, like where you had the massive armies that is canon. There was a Sith army for thousands of generations. You know, there were generations of the Sith for a long time. Even they said that the Sith have been in prequels. They've been extinct forever.
Yeah.
Right. Well, show me when they weren't extinct. Show
Right.
me when
Well-
the Jedi had to fight them. There was a great Old Republic video
game. That's what I'm
where
saying.
They had
That
this
you can
battle
see it.
of all the Jedi and all.
That's
Like,
rad.
imagine that.
Yes,
to where
that's
they
the
had-
shit I want.
And I think
Yes,
that can
I agree.
happen. And I think that it doesn't necessarily. You
'Cause,
don't
like-
need Kevin Feige to make that happen,
No,
but you
but
can
put
have
it in the Kevin Feige idea,
Right.
and when you see the shot of Infinity War of all the Avengers running, and everybody goes, "Oh my god!" The commercial for Old Republic
That's
comes
it.
out, and it's like all the Sith
Right.
light their lightsaber, and all the
and
Jedi
not the way it was in Camino.
and running at each other.
I mean,
like,
Can you make that noise
It
again?
was Genosis.
I'm not. I feel like every movie now has like the final shot of people running at each other, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
But like the shit that I want, right, is show me like what I loved about the prequels is it show me the power of the Jedi. The thing I didn't get from Last Jedi, and nobody gives a shit about my opinion on Last Jedi, and I don't care. I was really bored at points because there wasn't fucking fighting.
It wasn't fun. It wasn't a fun
It
movie.
wasn't a fun movie.
But
That's to his point, and I get it. The cerebral kind
but
of.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun. Force Awakens was fun. Rogue One was fun.
Yeah.
Rogue
One is my favorite Star Wars.
Solo is fun.
Yeah.
Last Jedi is the only movie that's not fun.
Correct.
And it's not supposed to be fun. But Empire Strikes
I was
Back
confused.
as Empire Strikes Back is a fun movie.
Yeah.
Even though it's dark, it's fun.
I mean, I guess that is all fun. Fun is relative, right? Because there were parts of Last Jedi that I actually really loved, and they're not necessarily fun, as in there's action going on. But I love the scene with Yoda and Luke. I love the scene.
Great point.
Anything.
That's
fun for me because
that
as
is fun.
As a
You're right.
kid, that actually made me it made me emotional watching that scene because that was probably one of the most magical moments as a kid is watching Empire and Yoda teaching Luke, and for them to be reunited.
That connected. That connected.
What about? I mean, I had the best time when Rey gets the lightsaber after killing Snoke and the Praetorian Guards, and that was fucking.
That was amazing.
There are moments.
That was amazing.
Where we're talking about from moments from overall tone.
Right.
Moments don't dictate tone all the way through.
Basically, what happened on that island is Rey went up and knocked on the fucking emerald door after the yellow brick road, and he was like, "Meh," and slammed the window.
He was the Grouchy Wizard for a long time.
I don't want Grumpy. I want Luke effing Skywalker killing some motherfuckers.
I don't mind. I don't mind Grumpy. I don't mind
too.
Grumpy with a good payoff. I just didn't think the payoff was good. Yeah, sorry, buddy.
Yeah,
All right,
I know.
but we're going into a whole different conversation.